Good day everyone, Mo here with Boxing Trash Talk. Look, today I'll be talking about the flaws of Kell Brook's boxing style. Okay, but before I get started, a couple of days ago I released a video on the flaws of Amir Khan's boxing style. So please take a look at that one. Now, before I continue, please subscribe to my channel. Here I will be putting out my view on upcoming boxing matches and really my unique take on all the upcoming matches, especially the ones that interest me. Okay, now talking about flaws of a boxer, this is what I do. I look at their consistent some action that they take that is consistent and it shows a weakness or it's a mistake. So it simply just cannot be a one-time thing. It has to be that they always do it, that can invite the opponent to take advantage of it. Now it can be a simple bad habits or mistakes, such as your boxing stance, your head movement, footwork, sometimes being out of position, not being able to control distance, sometimes reaching when punching. Those are the actions that can invite an opponent to take advantage of or exploit. Now, in the end, you don't have to be a great boxer to be considered, you don't have you don't have any flaws. You can be an average boxer, and so long as you don't repeatedly do something, then it's not a flaw. It's when you repeatedly do the same thing that is considered a flaw or mistake, or someone can or your opponent can take advantage of. Now, when it came to Kell Brook, I looked at him and I started to realize, well, I knew this before too, especially when he was first, getting to be known. Many had said, he's just over the pond. He's the guy from England, and he's not as good as they say. But when I look at Kell Brook, I see a very solid boxer. Okay, I see a solid boxer with good posture and a very good boxing IQ. So for me, Kell Brook is a good boxer. Okay, his IQ is very good. The guy has a great jab. He really controls distance. He can control distance, have a great and fast 1-2. I mean, when he has the opportunity to throw that 1-2, he's really good. We know he can counter punch. We know he is strong. We know he can take a punch. So when you look at all those things, good boxing IQ, good stance, is ready to counter, strong, and can take a punch, can control distance very well, and even if he gets in a mix-up, he still has the oversight of where opening is. So you just can't go there and blast him out and don't expect him to hit you back. Okay, so Kell Brook for me is a very, very solid fighter. Now let's look at Kell Brook's past fights. Okay, if you want to know how good is a Kell Brook, let's look at his last fights. Let us look at the so-called named opponents, people with names that he fought. Remember, I said in the beginning that when they talked Kell Brook in the earlier days, he was just another guy from England, just building up a record, no notable names on his record. But then his first match was with Sean Porter. Now, I believe he lost that fight. I honestly believe that Kell Brook lost that fight. But what I was impressed with Kell Brook is, no matter what the pressure Sean Porter was putting on him, and he was actually losing, he kept his posture. He never once got in a way that was always open or defenseless or anything like that. So no matter what type of pressure Sean Porter was putting on him, he kept his posture. That is very, very important for a boxer. Okay, so not when things get tough you kind of lose your composure. He kept his posture. He kept it, and he was able to do very well. Now I did believe he lost that fight. Now let's talk about Errol Spence. Errol Spence came in there realizing after seeing him with Sean Porter that this guy can take a punch. He is strong, and he probably saw what I saw. Kell Brook didn't lose himself in the fight. He kept his posture. Errol Spence had to fight him, and the only way Errol Spence was able to beat him is because Errol Spence throws a lot of punches, and he pressures you with all those punches. And even at times when Errol Spence was having the better of Kell Brook was able in the mix-up to still keep an overview of what was going on and saw his openings. Okay, now in the end, Kell Brook was overwhelmed at one point and quit. I call it quitting. Now let's talk about Triple G. He should have never took that fight, but for whatever reason, I think I know the reason. But there again, it goes to show you. I think Triple G came into that fight thinking that he's just going to run over Kell Brook. That did not happen. In fact, if Triple G, we know Triple G can take a punch. If Triple G couldn't take a punch, it would have been a different fight, because Triple G learned really fast that, okay, even his trainer was telling him, you better take this guy a little bit more serious and just don't go for the knockout. It will come to you. Because like you can see, Triple G, like he probably didn't train as he should for that fight. He just went out thinking he can overwhelm Kell Brook. Now, in the end, yes, he did get to Kell Brook, but it wasn't as easy as everyone thought it could have been or might have been. Now, let's talk Terence Crawford. When Kell Brook fought Terence Crawford, you saw that was not a Terence Crawford who thought he can outclass a Kell Brook. Thank God that Terence Crawford did show Kell Brook good respect and knew his approach into that fight will have to be very carefully planned and cautious, because he also knew Kell Brook could counter punch and has good posture. So don't ever think that Kell Brook cannot fight, because Terence Crawford did approach Kell Brook in a more cautious way, and he worked his way into the fight. Now, yes, Kell Brook walked into a punch, so Terence Crawford threw the punch, Kell Brook walked in, and that did the damage. But we'll get more into that in my flaws of Kell Brook. Now, so when we go back to all the fighters, Sean Porter, Errol Spence, Triple G, and Terence Crawford, we saw they didn't take him lightly, because anybody looking in on Kell Brook, that's not going to be an easy fight. You understand? It is going to be a fight. Now, with that being said, let us talk about the flaws of Kell Brook. What is a little bit off thing here at the moment, the flaws I see in Kell Brook has nothing to do with his fighting style. It has nothing to do, because like I said, you can be an average fighter and be okay so long as you do everything well and you don't consistently do something wrong or show some type of weakness. So it was very difficult for me to name a flaw in Kell Brook's fighting style. But what I did, I still was able to pull out 5 things I think that can influence the outcome of this fight with Amir Khan. Now let's start with the most obvious is the eye injury. That eye injury is going to play a very big role in the outcome of this fight. If Amir Khan knows what to do, that eye injury can be a flaw. Now remember, I said in Kell Brook boxing style, I cannot name a flaw that is consistent. So I'm going to name the things that I think that can influence the outcome of the fight. 1 is the eye injury. 2, Kell Brook has been in some tough fights over the years. Porter wasn't easy, Spence wasn't easy, Triple G wasn't easy. Terence Crawford fight was too short to really know what happened there. But yes, he was in some very tough fights. Now he did make a career wrong move, by fighting Triple G. And I would consider that a flaw, because that did not need to be. And then number 4, I just named 3, the eye injury. He's been in tough fights, should have never taken the fight with Triple G. I believe it's going to hurt him in this fight. And the other one, number 4, I know we're going to argue about this, but Kell Brook sometimes reminds me of Miguel Cotto. When the going gets tough, you start to backpedal, and if you pressure them a little bit more, they give up. Yes, I do believe Kell Brook gives up. He will go all his way, and he will find ways to give up. If he knows there's a good way to give up, he will. Now, I know you guys are going to argue with me, but remember, I told you Kell Brook is very strong. He's a great fighter. And why would I say that? Because I believe that if you pressure Kell Brook and you overwhelm him, he comes to the point, and especially with that eye injury, he comes to the point where he kind of gives up. All right? Now, here's what is. Amir Khan, this is what I think about this whole fight. See the flaws I'm naming there about Kell Brook? I believe of all of them, I think 2 things are going to hurt him most, which is the eye injury and the tough fights that he was in. And if you can overwhelm him, you couldn't get him to the point where he may consider quitting. Now, Amir Khan should never step into this fight, thinking this is going to be a walkover in the park, or it was just going to be a walk in the park, or because he sparred Kell Brook when they were younger and he claimed he overwhelmed him, that's going to be the same fighter. I don't believe anyone in the welterweight division is going to just overwhelm Kell Brook. You're going to have to fight him. Now, Kell Brook is a very solid fighter. To beat Kell Brook, Amir Khan needs to work on that eye. That's the weakness we know. Some may say body shots. I say you got to work on the eye. For Amir Khan to be effective against Kell Brook, he must learn to jab that eye or 1-2. Jab on 1-2, nothing more. And he needs to pepper that eye for at least 4 or 5 rounds. And Amir Khan should not come into that fight thinking of anything more than a 1-2. If he's thinking more than 1-2, he's going to be in trouble. Because remember, Kell Brook got a good jab. So you just can't walk in there thinking you're going to overwhelm him. Amir Khan is going to have to pick his time, pick his punches. He's going to have to use his jab more often. And if I was him, I would pepper Kell Brook's eye with my speed and only fighting on a 1-2. Anything else, Kell Brook can keep an oversight of what's going on. He'll find the opening on Amir Khan. And especially in an exchange. If Amir Khan believes he's going to throw a 3 or 4 punch combination, we must admit, after the 1-2 that Amir Khan throws, everything else is pushing punches from the arms. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. But what you do, he leaves himself open for a counter. And if there's one person who's going to be able to counter him better than every other fighter, except for Terence Crawford, would be Kell Brook. Okay? Now, Kell Brook has the advantage in this fight. I honestly believe Kell Brook has the advantages in the fight. A really good solid fighter. He can take a punch, good posture, good defense, good counter puncher, great jab. Why not? His flaws are not based on him as a fighter. His flaws are really based on things that happened around him. When we look at Amir Khan, and if you look at that video on the flaws of Amir Khan, you're going to see Amir Khan has a lot holes in his boxing style. Now, Kell Brook has definitely the advantage. However, I'm sticking with my prediction that I believe that Amir Khan can win this fight by knockout. And I'll explain that in another video. Or Kell Brook will win by decision. Now that sounds like a terrible prediction for everyone. Everyone will go the other way around. They'll say knockout. They'll probably say Kell Brook by knockout, Amir Khan by decision. I think this fight is a lot more, the hate, the bragging rights and all of that. So what I see is if Amir Khan is getting the worst of it, I do not believe Amir Khan is going to give Kell Brook the glory of saying I knocked out Khan. Khan might just do the running game and stay away. I know we've never seen him done something like that before, but this fight might make him do it. And the knockout, and that is why I don't believe Kell Brook can get the knockout if Amir Khan really stays away from him. I believe that if there's any chance, Amir Khan might get lucky depending on how he's trained this time. That if he's able to sit on a 1-2, I think he can hurt. I think he can hurt Brook and make Brook submit. Now, if Amir Khan, there has to be a completely new Amir Khan in this fight. Not a completely new, just a different way of fighting. He should fight Kell Brook the way he fought Canelo. Amir Khan has to fight Kell Brook the way he fought Canelo, which was based on movement on a 1-2, jabs on 1-2. We've seen him done before. And I believe Bomac is smart enough to understand that you cannot get into a fight with Kell Brook. You need to stay from a distance, 1-2 him. It makes more sense for Amir Khan to throw 1-2 because the 4, 5, and 6 and everything else that he throws just makes him, just takes the wind out of you. And that is why after he does his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he's moving and now he's putting his hands up and letting you close distance on him and punch him a little bit. That's because he needs a little time to recover. Amir Khan should stay in the outside, fight as the way he fought Canelo. He should use his jab and his 1-2, concentrating on Kell Brook's eye. If he doesn't do that and he does anything else besides that, it might be a short night for Amir Khan. Now, let me know what you all think about my commentary here or my analysis on the flaws of Kell Brook. I remember when I do flaws, I'm not looking for the perfect boxer. But what I'm looking for is somebody who consistently makes a mistake. I didn't find too much in Kell Brook that I can name here today. But I do know the things around him may play a very big part in the outcome of this fight. Again, I'm sticking to my prediction because of the explanation that I give. We'll see. Let's wait and see what happens there. Now, watch for my other videos. I will be putting out keys to victory for Amir Khan and keys to victory for Kell Brook. I hope you all support my channel. Please subscribe, and I'll see you the next time. Thank you.